At the beginning of this channel I did some wild camping and some great outdoors content, and when the opportunity came along to try something that was completely different, I jumped at it. This is a tree tent called UNA from Tentsile. All the contents come in this conveniently packed dry sack, so everything's in here you need. Nice little clip on the top, and it weighs 2.7 kilograms, which is no more or no less than your average tent, so it's easily put in your backpack. There is surprisingly little inside the main bag. We have the tools and ratchets, we have the fly sheet, and we have the main tent. All the contents to actually get this up off the ground are in the blue bag, and initially when you open this up you may think this looks overly complicated. Well, I'm going to go through the entire process for you here, showing you it's not actually that difficult once you've done it once or twice. On screen you can see there are even little extras here to stop water running into the tent should it be raining, and some bungee cord that I'll talk about where we use this and how it's used further into the video. Also included are 3 aluminium ground pegs so we can really stretch out that top cover, and we have 2 different types of ratchets which I'll explain fully how to install these now to get the best out of them. And lastly we have an anodized tent pole, which, if you're like me, a magpie, anything that's shiny or coloured like this, I absolutely love it. So let's get this tent off the ground. So step 1, we're going to need to find 3 trees that are within 16 foot of the actual main tent. And we need to find a tree that's roughly 15 inches in diameter. And we want to be aware that this strap really needs to be pulled against where the actual tent is going to be, if that makes sense on screen. You need to make sure that when you pull it, the strap is secure and it's not hanging loose, so better to put this at the side of the tree. Next, after we've got all 3 roughly in position, we're going to put the ground sheet down. Now, as I mentioned, these straps can be up to 16 foot, so that does mean you've got quite a good access to be able to find somewhere. Now we're going to attach the 3 carabiners to all 3 edges of the actual tent. And what I'm about to show you is what's called a half Nelson knot. Now this may seem overly complicated, but it doesn't need to be. Simply thread it through and back over itself, and we're going to wrap this round twice. If you imagine, this is almost like creating a small little bridge here. Then we're going to make a loop with what's left, push it through the carabiner, and then push it through the bridge. And the reason that we do this is that this is nice and secure, it almost tightens itself. And should we need to be able to undo this really quickly, you can pull the loose end and it will come away without any knots or any difficulty. Once you've done this a couple of times, it really is easy. Now we want to grab our ratchet and we're going to pass this through the carabiner and through itself. In fact, this is the same system we're going to use on all 3 sides. So there we go, nice and secure. This is the web lock that we've attached to the tent the same way as we have the other 3. And initially I thought this was a little confusing, but it's actually quite simple. We go through the bottom, over the top and under. Now the way this system works is that under tension this holds the tent up, and you can easily undo this just by flipping it forward. It's actually a really great design. And then we can just take up some of the slack towards the tree. When it came to the ratchet, this is the one that I wasn't quite sure, because the instruction manual that came with the tent was in French and I couldn't actually follow the instructions. It wasn't very clear. But from what I worked out, we go under the bottom and then we slide it back through this little slot here, and we take some of the slack out, and then when we close the ratchet, this will self-tighten and roll itself up. It's actually quite an effective system, and I'll show you how to actually undo this at the end. But one tip, please make sure that those cables are flat and neat. It really does make a mess if you don't. So we're going to take up some of the slack here, and then we can start to ratchet and take up that tension on one of the polyester straps. One thing that I think is really important is that this web lock needs to be facing upwards. If you get this the wrong way around, it will not tighten no matter how you pull this cable. It will be constantly loose, so make sure that that is pointing up. We can then take up the tension on all 3 until we get the tent up in the air, and there we go. That's it in its basic form, even though I know now from experience that there is not enough tension on this. Next we're going to grab the beautifully blue shiny aluminium tent pole, and if like me you've got previous tents where it feels like you can have a hernia trying to get that bar in, this was extremely easy, really easy, and it just pops into the allocated little slots. Next we're going to grab the actual rain cover, and we need to move it about 10 inches from the end of the actual ratchet. There is a system and a method in order to be able to tighten this, and it's called the crisscross method. So we're going to crisscross this and eventually tighter and tighter and tighter and tighter all the way along this cable, and then when we get to the end we're just going to hook them together. This is a self-tightening system where the more you do it, the tighter it will get and the less likely it's going to move in the wind or when you're moving around getting into your tent. Now we're ready for the actual rain fly. So drag this over and we're going to connect each one of the corners exactly the same way we did previously. Crisscross it all the way up, and if you can get these to actually hook onto the ends, it's even easier near the tree. In the centre of the tent we have a bungee cord, and you can pull this up and connect it to a tree above, meaning you can get a little bit more breathing space, shall we say, from tent to actual rain cover. On the edges we can use these pegs, plug these in so it keeps the tent nice and taut, meaning it's not going to flap around that much in the wind. And there is your basic system. It's very, very low profile and not that difficult once you've actually set this up, I think once or twice.
The UNA Tentsile. Now, one of the things I want to say to you is that if you're going to get one of these, you really want to practice a few times. And I'll show you one of the issues I've actually got with this. Well, not necessarily with this, but the way that I set it up as a complete beginner and the first time I've done it. As you can see behind me, the tension already, there is a sag here, meaning that the end strap needs to be tightened a lot more. And what tends to happen is you get in this thing, you're about to see, you end up like a banana hammock, which is not good for your back. I'm just going to get in now. Easy to get in, by the way. As you can see, I'm almost out of shot here. Let me just adjust the camera. And there we go. As you can see, there is a little bit of banana hammock going on there, which is not going to be best for your back. But if we put the air inflatable in and we increase the tension, especially at that end, I think this would be really, really comfortable, because waking up in the forest, by the way, you know that I've done many wild camps here on the channel, including staying out at Asgard Falls on my own in the darkest, deepest woods and in the UFO hotspot. But waking up in the morning, being able to look out into the forest like this, and you've got a bug sheet, it's really nice and cool in here, nice sleeping bag. I actually think this would be awesome. Obviously, beware of the trees above you and make sure that none of them are rotten. But yeah, like most things in my life, it's all about tension. Incidentally, there are some more little pockets here and things that you can hang up for your valuables inside there. And yeah, I'm actually quite impressed with this. And it feels like it's really well made, but we'll talk about that in a minute when I have a look at and discuss the review.
The tent also comes with a few little extras for hanging things up, including this basket, so you can put your dirty shoes in there or your boots or food. And we also have a compartment here for putting your air mattress in if you want something harder, or even an electric blanket under there, these battery powered ones to keep you warm.
I guess you're going to want to know, what do I actually think of this Tentsile UNA tent? Well, first of all, it's cool. It's really cool. I think in all the times I've actually been out wild camping, I've never seen anything like this, especially not in the trees. And if you go for the bigger ones, people actually stack them up into the trees. Amazing. Being able to wake up at the top of the canopy, so we say, must be quite amazing. Now, one of the first things, or the things that I think is important when you're going to be looking at one of these, is the trees. When I actually came into this forest, I wanted to go into the pine forest, but of course the underbrush and everything's really, really rough and horrible, and there's all loads of branches coming off. And trying to find 3 trees that are in a rough triangle sounds like a really easy thing, but it's not. Now, you've got 16 foot from the end to be able to find a tree, so there is quite a good distance here, but being able to find 3 that are perpendicular to each other is not the easiest thing. Oh, Illuminati. It feels really, really well built. There's not a chance you're going to get into this and it's going to rip, or any of the seals or the bindings are going to come away. It genuinely feels like it's really, really well built. The actual putting the bar in, you know, sometimes when you get these tents, it's like, you almost have a hernia trying to get these bars in that goes across. That was really, really easy. Now, another thing you're going to have to consider if you want to put the fly sheet on is that top part and actually attaching it above. You probably could take it to one of the side trees, but ideally you'd want that to be above, giving you a little bit more room in there. But other than that, it's easy to get in, so don't worry that it's going to be really, really difficult to get in or out of. And the fact that you can leave the top sheet off use this as a fly sheet when it's in summer is really, really cool. I really, really like that. If you've ever woken up in the forest in the morning when there's pheasants and stuff and there's a slight fog on the floor, well, you're going to be above that and you're going to get a great view of the forest. As I mentioned in my introduction, the biggest point I can make when putting this up is tension. You really do need to put a lot of tension on these ropes. And sometimes when you actually set it up, it feels like you're going to be putting too much tension on and you're going to break it. I need to put the figures on screen, but I'm sure there was something like half a ton of pressure these bindings will take, so there's no way that you're going to break this. Absolutely not. My advice to Tentsile, or even to you, is to get a second ratchet on this end point, because this one is the hardest one, and they're probably going to say to me, you put this one on first and then you ratchet the other two. But I think if there was an extra ratchet here, meaning you could adjust it after without constantly having to go around in a triangle changing all the tensions, I think this one could deal with either one of those bindings and fixings on the end. It really would make your life easier. If, like me, you occasionally like to go wild camping, the stealth aspect for this I think is really good, especially with the green cover on the top. From a distance, because it's such a low profile, especially if you don't pull that top up, it's almost impossible to see from a distance. Obviously in blue it sticks out like a sore thumb, but with that cover on, it's great. Now, many of you might say to me, well, you'd be better off lower to the ground, but there is a kit available for this to make it a side awning, so you can actually use this on the ground. But that's going to kind of limit, especially in this forest where there isn't any level ground at all, this is ideal to get off the ground. If you want to go stealth, you're going to have to find somewhere else. So it's either a matter of trying to find 3 trees that are fairly within that triangle, or finding some flat ground. I guess either way you go, it's kind of the same situation, isn't it? You've got one problem for the other. So my final thoughts on the Tentsile Una. I really like it. I really like it. I do think that I'm going to have to try it and put it up a few more times in order to be able to work out the tension and just get this up. They do say on the website that it probably takes you about 10 minutes, but I think if you leave a lot of those ratchets on the on the base cover, then you can get this up already connected. It would be a matter of just stretching it out and putting the ratchets on. That second ratchet, I think, really would make a massive difference and speed things up when it comes to getting the tension right. And of course, don't forget you're going to need an air mattress in there. But tension is the way to go when it comes to this thing. Setting it up right, I think, once you've done it a few times, will be really, really easy. Now, 5,000 subs is coming up. Not far away now. Views are down, but subs are up. Can't work it out, but anyway, in order to celebrate that, I might take this for a little adventure. I think we'll go for a drive, we'll go for a paddleboard, and we'll sleep out overnight somewhere. And I probably will take the Una with me because it's just cool and I really like it. And of course, when you get a new gadget, you want to try it. Quality's good. It is a little bit on the expensive side, but you're paying for something that's really, really stealthy, and I think will be really, really comfortable and give you an experience that you just won't get in a normal tent. Let me know if you've got any questions about the Tentsile Una. Are you thinking of getting one? Do you think it looks cool? Do you think it's too much effort to put up? Do you like the aspect that you're actually off the ground? I think if you've got that tension right, the wind will not be an issue at all. It'll be rock solid. I really like it, and I can't wait, as I'm about to sneeze from hay fever. I think I'll be doing some more on the channel. So before we leave, I'm going to have one little check around, make sure that I haven't left anything, and most importantly, that I haven't left any trace that I was here. No litter, no rubbish, nothing. Because between me and you, I'm getting a little bit sick of finding Red Bull cans, lager cans, nappies, and the worst, the absolute worst, dog muck in plastic bags. Why would you do that and hang it from trees and places? You shouldn't leave it, but if you left it, the rain would dissipate it. The fact that you're going to hang it here, it's going to be stuck here forever. It's appalling. And if I was the law, Judge Dredd, and I caught you doing it, I would make you eat it, and that would be your punishment. You don't eat it, you get 10 days in jail. No messing about. It's time for the boots to get this country back on track, make Britain great again. Honestly, please leave no rubbish. It belongs to everybody. Let's keep it beautiful. Nature is all around us, and we really should look after it. But that's enough from me. It's time for me to head back from the beautiful forests here in the Yorkshire Dales. I nearly said Lake District then. In the Yorkshire Dales, head back into suburbia and the urban cesspits Oh, I really wish I could find a job or I could get enough Patreons to enable me to be able to do this, not only all the time, but also to be able to stop me stuttering words when I'm talking to the camera. This has been Booty, Boots on the Ground. I'll see you in some more videos coming real soon.
I've decided to add a little extra bonus tip here on the channel because I've noticed online a few people weren't quite sure how to undo the ratchet, meaning they got stuck. There are two little springs on the top of the handle here, and what you need to do is push the ratchet all the way back on itself, give it a little wiggle, and it'll soon come loose. Otherwise you're going to be stuck there. I even read somebody online had actually cut through with a knife because they couldn't work out how to do it. Don't ruin your tent. Literally just do that. Ratchet all the way back, give it a wiggle, and the cable will come undone.